As I answered the phone, my wife's voice echoed through the receiver, brimming with urgency and unease. She pleaded with me, her words shaking with distress. "William, please come to me as soon as possible. Go only to your friend's clinic and nowhere else." Anxiety flooded my mind, and my heart raced with concern. I couldn't ignore the nagging suspicion that something was amiss, even though I couldn't pinpoint the exact issue. It perplexed me that she would ditch her gym plans for a friend's house, yet rush me to escort her to my friend's clinic. My thoughts were racing, contemplating whether or not to confront her about the inconsistency. The anxiety was causing my stomach to churn. My doubts had clouded my thoughts, making it challenging to think logically. I was struggling to come to grips with my concerns. The strong bond of love and trust we had built over the years made me believe in her and prioritize her well-being above all else. Despite the chaos in my mind, I found the courage to answer, "I am on my way, my love. Just hold on." During the drive, my mind was a jumble of emotions and thoughts. I felt anxious about my wife's health, yet I also had a nagging suspicion that something wasn't right. Her explanation didn't quite make sense. She claimed to be going to her usual gym, but I knew its location, and it was in the opposite direction from where she said she would be. When I arrived at the exact house she had named, I heard her scream. I searched every corner of the house, and to my shock I found my wife lying naked on the bed, her face pale and the bedsheet crumpled around her. She fainted when she saw me. It was evident that something strange was happening. I hurriedly carried her to a medical facility owned by a friend. After examining her, my friend informed me of a troubling discovery that I had not anticipated. I was completely unprepared for what I was about to hear. I suspected that my wife had either betrayed me or been a victim of a crime. However, my friend revealed that multiple people had attempted to harm her. He urged me to contact the authorities immediately, before it was too late, and advised me to be cautious around my wife since we were uncertain about what had happened. Despite his advice, I did not report anything to the authorities because my wife insisted on going to this particular clinic. Her decision to go to that clinic suggests that she was hiding something from everyone else. I prevented my friend from reporting anything to the police. The experience of being with my unconscious wife was indescribable. It was clear that she was not faithful to me. As I reflected on all the arguments we had in the past 6 months, I realized that I had married someone I did not truly know. At times, I had doubts about whether my wife was involved with someone else, or if she was struggling with life's hardships. However, I was hesitant to confront her about it because our life had been wonderful just a few months before. I was still attempting to understand what had caused her to change. The only way to uncover the truth about what happened was to wait for Georgia to wake up. In the meantime, I needed to keep myself calm and composed. As soon as she regained consciousness, I rushed to her side and held her trembling hand. "Are you all right? What happened?" I asked with genuine concern and anger in my voice. She turned her head to face me, and I could see the shame and embarrassment in her eyes. She stuttered as she attempted to apologize. "I'm so sorry. I lied about where I was. I wasn't taken there against my will. I was meeting someone," she said. Then she told me that she met a guy at her gym, and they booked an apartment for the day. And when they arrived at the apartment, she was shocked to find that he had brought 5 of his friends along with him. She was forced into multiple acts of coercion, with the final one being carried out by her boyfriend. Afterward, they left her unconscious in the rented apartment. As she recounted what happened, my heart sank, and I was hit with the harsh reality of the situation. It wasn't easy to follow the unfolding events, as my mind was working like a mad machine to digest what she was saying. Her lie shattered the trust that had been the foundation of our relationship up to that point. I could only manage a mutter, and my voice shook with a mix of pain and anger. As she saw tears forming in her eyes, she drew in a slow breath. "I wanted something new," she said, with a peculiar blend of pride and guilt in her voice. "I wanted something new. I started an affair with someone I met at the gym. she confessed. Her words shattered my world in an instant. The pain of her betrayal was overwhelming, and I knew it would take time for the wounds to heal. I wanted to scream at her and unleash my anger for all the pain she had caused, but despite the agony, I held my composure. After thinking about it, I began to understand something. It was a path we had walked together through both triumphs and tribulations, and we had made progress along the way. As I spoke these words, my voice trembled with emotion. While I needed time to process everything, I was finally able to articulate my thoughts. The future was uncertain, and I needed space to sort through my feelings. Despite this, I was advised to be compassionate towards her, as she needed my care and affection. As I exited her chamber, the physician updated me on both her physical and mental well-being. Although I could not recall the specifics of what was said, the words love and affection struck me like a dagger to the heart. We had shared countless experiences and aspirations, and our bond had seemed unbreakable. But over time, our once strong relationship began to fray. I detected a shift in Georgia's demeanor. The things that once brought her joy now seemed to cause her distress. Our conversations were fraught with tension, with unspoken frustrations and lengthy silences. Georgia had figuratively distanced herself from me, constructing an invisible barrier that appeared impenetrable. My heart ached as I struggled to make sense of this emotional withdrawal. The pieces of the puzzle had finally fallen into place, and I came to understand that my spouse's shift in disposition was not solely due to the challenges life had presented us. The revelation struck me like a sudden thunderbolt. She had been unfaithful and desired something different. My thoughts were consumed with queries, and my heart was consumed with fury. How could she shatter the trust we had painstakingly constructed? What impelled her to embark on this patch without weighing the consequences? The rage boiling within me caused me to crave retribution. Yet in the midst of the emotional tempest, I recognized the toll it would take on my own serenity. Seeking vengeance would only perpetuate the cycle of agony, making it impossible to find solace. Her new liaisons had transformed my once cherished abode into a place of disquiet. As a result of our petty disagreements, she made my life a living nightmare. I began finding reasons to stay away from home. I am committed to seeking justice and teaching those bullies a lesson so that they will never harm my wife or any other woman again. This resolve remains firm, regardless of any challenges that may arise in my relationship with my wife. She was untouchable. To gather more information about the fool who crossed her, including his identity and origin, I began my investigation at the gym. I refrained from asking my wife for details to avoid any ambiguity about my intentions. After gathering all necessary information at the gym, I proceeded to the address he had provided, only to discover it was incorrect. I went back to the gym and spent an hour trying to find his picture. Then, I revisited the same location and began showing the image to everyone I encountered. I claimed to be searching for the individual because he had absconded with my money, and I needed to recover it. Additionally, I presented myself as a menacing figure involved in illicit activities, with the man in question being my employee. Despite the inhospitable nature of the neighborhood, I spent an entire day searching for leads. Eventually, a teenage boy informed me about the individual I was seeking. He said that the man was not a permanent resident and often changed his location, and was also a participant in criminal cases. The boy also provided me with his current whereabouts, and I proceeded to the location. Once again, the area was unpleasant. On this occasion, I brought my baseball bat with me from the car and proceeded directly into the building. After knocking on the door, I concealed my bat behind it. However, receiving no response, I entered the premises. The unlocked door led to a smoke-filled room where 4 or 5 inebriated ruffians were present. I retrieved the picture from my back pocket to confirm the identity of my target and found him lying on the sofa. I started hitting him. I lost track of where I was hitting him, but as he began to scream, the other hooligans attempted to intervene. When I struck them, they fled the scene, leaving him alone with me. I do not recall how long the beating lasted, but I made certain that he would be permanently disabled. Before departing, I reminded him that he could not file a complaint against me due to his illegal residency status within the country. Furthermore, even if he attempted to file a complaint against me, I would counter by accusing him of raping my wife. It took her a considerable length of time to recover physically, and the medical professionals prioritized her well-being. Nevertheless, the scars from the experience were not only evident on her body, but also deeply ingrained in her psyche. In light of her condition, the physicians recommended therapy as a way for her to heal from the emotional trauma and rediscover her sense of self. They recognized the importance of addressing her emotional wounds alongside her physical ones. I found myself at a loss for what to do next, as she was not yet capable of living independently, and I was unable to remain with her. Time passed. The days dragged on like weeks, and I still didn't know what to do next. As time passed, the wounds began to scab over, and we sought solace in therapy and honest communication as we navigated the treacherous path of the healing process. However, the damage had already been done, and our once unbreakable bond had been irreparably altered. Just as we began to feel as though we had gained some semblance of control over our lives, another unforeseen obstacle arose. During one of our therapy sessions, my wife revealed to me that she was pregnant. The news came as a sudden and unexpected shock, and my reactions were tumultuous. I was overwhelmed by a hurricane of emotions, including anger, confusion, and dissatisfaction. How could I possibly move forward knowing that our child would serve as a constant reminder of the affair that had destroyed our relationship? The betrayal was mounting, threatening to suffocate any love that remained intact. I was fooling myself into thinking that I was moving on with my life, but the truth about my wife's pregnancy shattered that illusion. As I grappled with my emotions, suppressing my rage became increasingly difficult. All I could do was wait for the baby to arrive. After simmering for a while, the deep-seated hatred and hostility eventually erupted into a relentless outpouring of hurtful language and allegations. I reacted impulsively because I couldn't fathom why my spouse would bring a child into our shattered world. The child served as a painful reminder of the unfaithfulness that led to our separation, and I couldn't grasp my wife's rationale. Ultimately, I decided to part ways. The unbearable pain of being betrayed, coupled with the constant fear of mistrust, proved to be overwhelming hurdles. As we bid farewell and parted ways, I was overcome with a combination of sorrow and release. The separation was not without its challenges, as the emotional scars lingered, etched into our very essence. However, with the passage of time, the wounds began to gradually mend. Now, only faint remnants remain, serving as reminders of the common bond we once shared. My former spouse embarked on the journey of motherhood alone, dedicating her focus to nurturing the life growing within her. Meanwhile, I was determined to rebuild my life and rediscover my own happiness. Despite the uncertainty of what lay ahead, I found comfort in introspection, personal growth, and self-improvement. We both knew that the wounds inflicted by the infidelity would always leave a mark, impacting my recovery and my efforts to reclaim the parts of myself that had been lost along the way. The separation allowed for both of us to move forward. I took advantage of the space and time to focus on my own well-being. Even though I knew my ex-wife was struggling with her mental health, I refrained from contacting her after the separation. When she shared the news of her pregnancy, my suppressed anger boiled over. It was then that I realized I needed to bring closure to our situation and move on. From that day forward, I never looked back. I can't imagine how she'll cope with her mental state while bringing a child into this world. As the years went by, my life took many different turns, each leading me down a path of growth and enlightenment. The injuries I sustained in the past have since healed, leaving behind scars that serve as constant reminders of the challenges I faced and the strength I found within myself when I embraced my new life. Carrying with me the knowledge I gained from past experiences, I embarked on a challenging journey that eventually led me to a place where I could see my future illuminated by three guiding principles: the pursuit of happiness, the act of forgiveness, and personal growth. One evening, while dining in a bustling restaurant, I unexpectedly crossed paths with her sister as we both waited for our tables. As her sister and I conversed, she confided in me that my ex-wife was struggling through a difficult phase in her life. Despite having a child, she was residing alone in a psychiatric facility. Upon hearing this news, I was both curious and concerned. I attempted to visit her, but due to her fragile state, I was denied permission to see her. But I persisted and requested to at least catch a glimpse of her. Eventually, my request was granted and I was able to see her. She sat on the edge of her bed, her eyes empty and filled with sorrow. Her fragile appearance made it clear that her current situation had taken a toll on her health and well-being. Seeing her in that state allowed me to forgive her, and I felt as though a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. But I have no intention of reconciling with her under any circumstances. To move beyond the wounds of the past, I must forgive and let go, knowing that she will bear the consequences of her actions for the rest of her life.